Feels Good Man says the game hasn't slowed down for Gradey yet at all. I completely agree. And that also seemed a little bit apparent in that preseason opener against the Denver Nuggets. Obviously, just preseason. But again, it's like the stuff that we wanted to see improve over the offseason. We didn't come into the season with it looking like there are improvements in those areas. And with a very deep Raptors team right now, with 13 to 14 players vying for rotation spots, there's going to be some odd men left out. And if more performances like the one from Gradey Dick and Denver Nuggets happen, he will be one of those odd men out. I completely agree there. Again, it's just one preseason game, so there's no definitive statement here that he can't hang at this level. There's nothing of the sorts. So we're not going to spin what I say in that direction, but it absolutely was a little bit of an alarming performance from the preseason game, because my thought process is like what Gradey Dick has to do in the offseason. He needs to become a little bit sharper with his three-point shooting. And three-point shots are extremely high variance. You can have good looks, you can take good shots, and just on a certain day, they're not going to fall, and that's fine. But like what he really needs to be working on in the offseason was his defense. And that's what you can get to work on in a gym. Because last season, as much as there was improvements here, last season for Gradey Dick, it was his defense on a lot of occasions that just kept him off the court and gave the Raptors coaching staff excuses not to play him. And in certain games, like you just could not play him down the stretch because he was getting torched on defense. Now, offensively, there was a big jump from year one to year two, which was great. From an output standpoint, for sure. Like, Gradey Dick went from 8.5 points to 14.5 points. From 2.2 rebounds to 3.6. Assists went up as well. Rebounds is just mostly down to the just minutes going up. But the points went up at a higher rate. So the points definitely we saw improvements in. But his efficiency went down a little bit. And he shot 35% from three. True shooting percentage of 54, which is not that good. Especially for a guy like, he's shooting threes. That can really drive up that true shooting percentage. It weights them accordingly. But he shot 35% from three. That definitely leaves a bit to be desired from him. He just wanted to become more of a complete knockdown threat for the Raptors, especially with his potential, and especially because he has the ability to do it. You just know he has the ability to do it there. We didn't really see that. Again, that can be forgiven. It was, like I said, a rough preseason opener for him from a box score standpoint. 17 minutes for Gradey Dick, which was a good chunk. It was near the top of Raptors players in this game. 1 of 6, 1 of 4 from 3, 2 of 2 from the line, but 5 points, 3 turnovers as well. One of them extremely sloppy in doing so, just like lost focus and lost his hand on the ball without any really defensive interference. It was definitely a rough game for him on offense. And defensively, this is where some of the concern starts to step in. Defensively, he looked the same. He looked bad on defense, and it didn't look like improvements had been made in that area. Again, it's one preseason game. It's not definitive. There could be improvements that we'll see in these other games. But there's a lot of times when you go into even the preseason opener and you see that has gotten better, that has sharpened up, that has clearly been worked on. And there wasn't really anything out of Gradey Dick's 17 minutes that made me say that or come even close to saying that. My thoughts resonate quite well with TSN Raptors beat reporter Josh Lewenberg, who said the Raptors are deeper this season and they're trying to win. If Gradey Dick is going to hold off the more versatile Ochai Agbaji and the younger Jacoby Walter at their deepest position, he'll need to be a whole lot better than he was tonight on both ends of the floor. So yeah, the Raptors have not necessarily a top-heavy bench, but they have players vying for these spots. Agbaji is pretty established. He's decently established as a talented defender, and he was very good in shooting the three ball last season. Jacoby Walter is coming into his second season and looked good in Summer League. Now, Jacoby Walter did not look good in that preseason opener. Maybe a bit better defensively than Gradey Dick, but offensively did not look good in that preseason opener as well. But there is a lot of excuse to take Gradey Dick like almost out of rotation if things don't start to see a jump or an improvement. I think he's going to have a lot of leash there, and I think that they really want to see this investment in time and Gradey Dick pay off and Gradey Dick's performances raise up. And look, that absolutely has a possibility of happening. It's just if the same Gradey Dick comes out this season that was there last season, beyond like the first few months of the season. Because like the first few months of the season, he was spectacular. He was an MIP candidate, even though the defense and stuff wasn't there. The offense was definitely there. That definitely faded off as the season went on for him and the Raptors. So if we kind of see what we saw near like the end of the season for Gradey Dick this year, then absolutely there are going to be players trying to bully him out of that rotation spot. So basically what I'm trying to say for Gradey is that role, that spot, and those minutes are his. But now there is much more internal pressure from the players behind him where it's not impossible Gradey Dick loses that spot. I think my opinion at this point, whether I think it will happen, I don't think it will, but I do think that it will become a conversation a few months into the season, like maximum. 2 or 3 months into the season, I think that these conversations are starting to happen. Because, when you try to go through, try to name the rotation. Like Darko said he wants to go 11. I don't think they should go 11. He's typically started the season with an 11-man and eventually trims down to like a 9-man rotation. So we're trying to name like the 6 guys that are going to be playing coming off the bench. Like it's just based on this game. So it'll be Mohamed Kelishvili for sure in rotation, I think. Looks like based on the minutes, Colin Murray-Boyles will have that spot. That's 2. Looks like Jamal Shead, your backup point guard, he's going to have that spot. And then it starts to get a bit dicey. Is it Jonathan Mobo? Maybe. Is it Jacoby Walter? Maybe. Like Gradey Dick, I said will be in it. That would be the 4th one, right? We're already at 4. And then we have, like I said, Jonathan Mobo. Like I said, Jacoby Walter. You also have Ochai Agbaji. Jamison Battle was kind of out of favor in that first preseason game. And this is a game that Jakob Poeltl wasn't even playing. So there's a lot of competition for these spots. And therefore, a lot of excuses where if somebody's not up to scratch defensively, and it seems like the Raptors are kind of wanting to build this defensive identity with their team, he could eventually become one of those odd men out. Like that preseason game kind of showcased, the Raptors are going to be a team that relies on possession battle. They're going to rely on turnovers. They're going to rely on their defense keeping them in these games. They did that at the latter stages of the season. So if Gradey Dick is kind of not up to snuff there, yeah, there could be some pressure from the people behind him. And as much as, could be problematic for the player individually, it is a good problem to have. It is good. Part of, I think, what made the bench mob successful way back when now for the Raptors was like there was just a lot of good players off the bench and a lot of people fighting for those minutes. Bobby Webster himself said his media availability ahead of media day. He said that we're paraphrasing, but we're very happy to have this internal competition back with the team. And I think that's only going to push players, and hopefully it pushes Gradey Dick in the right directions. But if the defense just isn't going to cut it and it just isn't going to be there, again, one of those serious conversations will need to happen.